so here is Veronica with her message to you and the world.
We understand that in a collective way, you all gather together in your individual moments to give thanks for what you have. And sometimes that's kind of hard to do, especially if you feel like you're in lack. But we think every one of you needs to simplify it down to what you're thankful for. You shouldn't be thankful for material things. You shouldn't be thankful for things that you want to go your way. We think where the thankfulness needs to come in is the idea that you woke up this morning and you were breathing in the air and you were feeling all of the intricacies that physical life has to offer. All of them are beautiful, and all of them have a lot of power behind them. We think the thankful part of you should be very simple, about just being able to be in that form, function in that form, and participate in a world. Now, we understand the world is chaotic, but if you simplify it down and look at a flower, or look at that hummingbird going to the flower, then you can kind of get back to the simplicity of your essence. Because spirit isn't that complicated. Linear reality is very complicated. And to be truly powerful, you need to be in a simple place and have simple ideas and simple thankfulness for those simple things. We think every one of you should go about having this dinner that is very important, but it's also about understanding that life is a gift and to be thankful for it. And you've created this sort of collective kind of thing where you all sit down at the dinner table and share food. But what you're really doing is sharing energy and reconnecting with energy. That's the simple part of it. So when you go to your events, go there with the idea that the people sitting around you are just like you. They have their negative things that are going on. They have their anxiety. They have their moments where they're not happy with themselves or anything around them. Decide that you're just going to connect with them as an essence. None of the nonsense, none of the drama, and see how you feel. And be thankful for that feeling once you examine it. Because at the end of the day, it's all about energy, and it's all about who you are as souls, not so much who you are as linear beings having an experience. So we say, make it simple, make it loving, and most of all, make it unconditional.
Thank you, Veronica. Her name is Kathy, with a K. And she wants to know about angels. And I must make a comment, of course. Veronica now giving me a little look. I get to do editorial comments occasionally because I can tell you that I've talked to dozens and dozens of different entities and non-physical beings, including angelics and source entities, and none of them, zero, use the word angels. The only time that angels are ever mentioned, if Veronica happens to talk to somebody who's very steeped in a religion, and it's just easier than explaining what angelics are, which maybe we'll do now. They all refer to themselves, including themselves, as angelics. And they're basically, if you want to go to the source entity level, Veronica has 3 different categories, which we'll talk about later, but maybe one is a root entity, which really is into physical reality, wants to know everything about it, like everything, like being a rose, that level of. Others are what she calls angelics, which are completely different. And then there's others which are ethereal, and they dwell they incarnate, but they also spend a lot of time in non-physical. And for those who are wondering, Veronica is part of the root entity class. So anyway, Veronica, this person would like to talk about angels and what I would call angelics.
Angelics are a species like humans are. They have a different frequency which makes them not so able to adhere to the gravitational pull that the planet provides. Therefore, they are usually elevated off the ground a bit, which is why they're depicted in biblical texts as being winged creatures. They don't have wings. They are merely lighter than air and are elevated off the ground. And the only way early scribes could describe them was to depict them as being elevated off the ground, because how else would they do it? The angelics do take an interest in humans. They do have the ability to participate at those higher frequencies and often are very telepathic and very psychic in how they do things. We have many who say, I was in a car accident. I felt like there was somebody showed up. I think it was an angel that showed up. It could have been Gabriel. It could have been Michael. Some angelic showed up and saved me from being smushed in my car, which I should have been. But miraculously, I was not. And we say, yes, they do show up. They do take an interest in different individuals. They do have a very open heart towards humanity and wish to be of service and help whenever they can. They always feel empathy very deeply. They always are able to perhaps see into a future element a bit. So if they see something is happening that can be circumvented if someone were just to insert themselves into it, they do it. So yes, the angelics are deeply interested, and they do have abilities. But it is because of their high frequency. They don't adhere to the gravitational pull, and by not adhering to it, they are able to also see things more clearly than perhaps a human could.
Thank you, Veronica. And I will add, highly individual, angelics and all entities, and maybe we can talk about that a little bit later. But for instance, I talked to angelic. Now, Gabriel's unbelievable, but Titus, he threw me halfway across the room physically because he was a warrior, in essence. And, I tend to be obnoxious sometimes. And he was very combative. Now, I absolutely believe that he came through to help me in some way because I provoked thought. But I'm just saying that don't paint everybody with the same brush. Angelics and all entities are highly individual. And why not? Why is it important to follow your heart as opposed to your mind? Or is the intellect and the heart, should they both receive equal?
Yes. Following your heart is a phrase that has been coined in physical reality and the human culture to follow how something feels. And they use the word heart. You're also taught in a metaphysical way that thought creates reality. The thing that needs to be done is a unification between how you feel and how you think. They are both very useful tools because what you think becomes reality, and how you feel propels that thought in a positive or negative way. So it is important for the heart and the mind to be in a cohesive partnership. And some will say, well, I don't do well with emotion. And then they'll have someone who say, well, I'm so emotional, I just don't even have a thought in my head. I don't know how I'm going to create my reality. We'd say if you're very heartful and very emotional, hold on to that and attempt, if you can, to bring some thought into the decision-making that your feelings bring forward. And if you're all in your head and emotion is very difficult for you, you need to decide that, okay, I'm going to be doing my thinking, but I'm also here and there going to bring a little emotion in and allow myself to feel. Now, for some of you who aren't emotional, that will take a great deal of practice. The unification between feeling and thinking is a valid one. So wherever you're at, whether you're a thinker or whether you're a feeler, attempting to merge the two, even if it's just slightly, is a good idea.
Veronica, you said one time that it's a good idea to forgive and release. Segue back to the conversation about the Spanish Inquisition. Obviously, April and I have done that, even though she ratted me out and I was, burned at the stake, which is so great. So why is it important to forgive and release?
Forgiveness releases you from the binding difficulty that holding on to dramatics that have occurred that were negative can have upon you. If you hang on to something and you don't forgive, then that energy churns inside of you through the rest of the life and can color other participations that you are involved with. Forgiving someone doesn't mean you're going to let them in to give them another opportunity if they are in a pattern of doing such things. But forgiving releases you from the binding energy that their participation brought. You're going to let it go. You're going to say, I forgive you. I'm not going to forget, but I'm going to forgive you. And move forward without carrying the participation, the negative participation that you brought to the table along with you. I'm not going to carry that baggage. I forgive you because I, assuming in that forgiveness that you are indeed a divine energy and that you made some inappropriate choices that compelled you to enact something that had negative impact upon me. I forgive you for that. But I'm also going to remember that you do have a propensity for that and be mindful of that in the future. But letting go of indiscretions, bad energy, someone who maybe has harmed you, forgiving them releases you as well as releases them and allows you to move forward without that energy coloring any other event you have in your life.
Thank you, Veronica.